Hey guys, welcome to Discography. I'm your host, Dave Gebrow, and just a quick history of this show. This was initially actually intended only as a Patreon exclusive. It was an off-topic conversation, completely impromptu, that Bob Nastanovich and I had about David Berman and the Silver Jews in the context really of just discussing Pavement chronologically. At the end now of the incredibly triumphant and successful 2022 reunion tour that they had, and I guess want to put this out there because really, if David Berman as an artist means as much to you as he does to me, then frankly, I think it would be a selfish move for me to keep this behind a paywall. So from me to you, here is a brief but substantive 10-minute or so conversation with Bob Nastanovich about David Berman, his good friend, and also a little bit about shitty Husker Du gigs and the one song that Bob Nastanovich actually wrote, and you'll never actually guess what genre. Thank you so much for sticking with the series up to this point, and definitely stay tuned because in a week, on October 16th, we're going to have 2 weeks of Lou Barlow rating the Zombies. We'll see you then. Before we get there, the next thing that you did was Starlight Walker. So if we could just delve into that.
It's kind of a different band. It's just, one of the most significant experiences of my life in the studio because I was far more vital to Silver Jews at that time than I ever was to Pavement in terms of recording. So, this is two people that I'd known since I was 18 years old. And this was sort of the peak of our experience together, kind of my first real essential recording in a studio, and probably some of my fondest memories. Keep in mind also, as a drummer at the time who had really never had any interest in playing a kick drum, it also provided for the welcome addition of Steve West, who drummed on as many songs on the record as I did, and believe me, I'm grateful that he did, because if I drummed on them, then the songs would not have made the impact, including Advice to the Graduate, the song that you mentioned earlier. A lot of people who bought it were Pavement fans. I mean,
yeah. Well,
this is before the era in which David had clearly decided to make Pavement and Silver Jews two separate things. I think that the reaction to Watery Domestic and a lot of rock critics reviewing his music for the first time and continuing to refer to it as a Pavement spin-off band, when David was the only full-time member and the only essential member of Silver Jews. It was 24/7, 365 for him, and it wasn't for the rest of us. We had Pavement going on.
Right.
That's. I think that's enough.
Enough of
talking about it, yeah. Because I could, whatever, we could have done this about Silver Jews as well.
I would love to as well. I'm going to be at some point.
I'm not. I would never do that. But,
I know that, and I wouldn't ask you to.
Yeah, no. There's so many different eras there, and so much different personnel and stuff like that. It would be amazing. I wouldn't really even know who to recommend.
John Vanderslice wants to do it.
Seems like a great choice, a very good choice
for anyone out there who's a big Pavement fan. And as far as is inquisitive about the overlap with Pavement, this one has a lot of overlaps. Steve can be heard all over the record, as can Bob and Steve West. For the remainder of it, Natural Bridge has no Pavement members. The American Water, Federal Dust, and Blue Arrangements are Malcolm's co-writes. Bright Flight has no Pavement members. Tangle with Numbers.
I played on that. I played on Punks and the Beer Light and How Could I Love You If You Won't Lie Down on there. I'm the only drummer on that.
And then Lookout Mountain, Lookout Sea, no Pavement members. And of course, Purple Mountains is basically woods, right?
As far as I know.
The lyrics to Advice to the Graduate, I gotta quote this because it's meant so much to me, and I've quoted it so often, and I've thought about it so much. So you've got no friends and you wander through the night, and now you watch the sunrise through a rifle sight. Well, don't believe in people who say it's all been done. They have time to talk because their race is run. So get in some licks and hold your head up and soon you'll be drinking from that crystal cup. Lyrics can only be as good as that. They can't really get better than that.
Yeah, he's one of the best poets to ever write songs. I mean, obviously, and this is all I'm going to say on the subject is not that, I don't know, okay, because I've only ever played really in two bands, despite, whatever. That I don't know how many bands make their songs around just words written on a sheet of paper. I would assume that's sort of an unusual way to go about it. And that's all.
Yeah.
I mean, the 24th Poet Laureate of the United States was named recently, and it's a brilliant poet named Ada Limon, and she's an outstanding poet. And I don't know her personally. I know her husband, Lucas, and she's just an incredibly talented poet. Again, like I said, I don't know her personally and how she feels about poetry, but I think that she would tell you that David Berman was a very good poet.
No, I think that goes without saying. As
and
far
you
as
should check out Ada Limon if you like poetry, because she's fantastic.
I'm on it. I always make a list of recommendations during episodes, and then the second I hit stop, I'm on it. So, and I know that every human being on the planet, just by dint of being alive, their lives are marked by trauma. I've certainly had quite a lot in my own life, but, without delving too far into it, because I'm sure you didn't want to go there. I have
no problems with any of this. It's just it's off subject.
Right. I mean,
I'll say this. Yeah. I mean, like you said, I think
when the news came
and David's life made sense. I mean, I've had a lot of friends, brilliant friends, die much younger whose lives weren't as full. So nowhere near the most tragic loss that I've experienced just in my own life.
Look, I didn't know him like you knew him, obviously, but
it's one of my best friends. But at the same time, he had one thing that needs to be kept in mind is I think he lived longer than he wanted to.
Really?
Yeah.
Was this something that you think?
It wasn't the first time he died. So yeah,
but it had to
somebody who first of all, I don't know you extremely well, but I don't think you or I can really relate to.
I have depression, and I've never thought of. I have thought that suicide would be in some ways a relief, but never had I actually planned anything or anything like that. So
yeah,
I don't connect to it in that way, but I've always suffered from depression. And when the news came out about what he had done, his passing was hard for me, which is odd because he was a stranger to me. So, and I'd never really had that reaction. Maybe the only other person was David Foster Wallace, where it hit me that hard. Really and truly on just a humanistic level, a real, like a wave of love goes out to you for having gone through what you went through and in trying to understand it.
It was a pleasure to be associated with the guy for over 30 years. That's all. He was, I think a lot of people have best friends. I have a lot of brilliant, just as friends. And I don't even really rank them.
I should do a version of this show where people rank their friends.
He was very entertaining. And this is, sort of unique angles and opinions, but that's enough.
Yeah.
That's off subject.
Okay. The only other thing I want to say before we move on is that when I think of him, I think of the one clip in the documentary where he's at the wall in Israel and he starts to cry.
Yeah, is that on the...
This was from the documentary that Michael Tully did.
Yeah, Carol's brother. He's a great filmmaker.
Yeah. That one clip is really a very beautiful thing. Let's move on. I appreciate you talking about it.
No worries. I don't, have to thank me or, the show. Whatever. It's no problem. It's just,
It just sucks.
It's way down the list of horrible things that have happened that are illogical.
Yeah.
Way down the list.
Okay, so after Unfair, we have what Pitchfork voted the number one song.
It's a good thing he never had to see the Zen Arcade tour when he was 16 or whatever.
You saw that tour?
Or New Day Rising.
You saw that tour?
Yeah, all those bands came through Richmond. It was fantastic.
The first time I got to see Mould was for Black Sheets of Rain, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a horrible Husker Du show after, what's it called, Candy Apple Gray in Charlottesville, but I saw good ones.
Oh man, I love Candy Apple Gray. That
you would have liked the live show. It was bad.
That Crystal, the way that album.
But I mean, Pavement played way more bad live shows than Husker Du ever played in total.
Yeah. What's amazing to me is you've been in the company of some of the great songwriters of our generation. I think most people would agree to that. And you're very well spoken and articulate. Did you ever try to write music?
Oh, no. I can creatively write. I'm a journalist. It's been suggested that I write books, but
have you ever written a song?
Autobiography type stuff. No, I don't know how to write songs.
You've never?
No, actually, no. I wrote one song. I always tell struggling songwriters that have ability, and of course, I know hundreds of those, that they should attempt to write one of these songs that gets played in every sporting event in the world, like Seven Nation Army or the famous Gary Glitter song,
or Bang the Drum All Day by Rundgren.
Yeah, that kind of thing, or Sweet Caroline these days to the point of nausea. Because you could make a song that basically no one's really ever heard, and you're this completely anonymous figure, but then suddenly for some weird reason it's getting played at like every high school football game, every European football match. I mean, then it's just game over, sit back, relax, and oh yeah, no, I'm the dude that does that song that you just listened to in the that timeout in the third quarter.
Right.
So
I bet you'd be good, though. I mean, it's like Bob.
But basically, I wrote a song where that was my aspiration. Lyrics were pretty stupid, and it was called Bad. And my friend Patrick Fleming recorded it. It took us 45 minutes to make, which was somehow appropriate. And I never really tried to sell it. And then I had one Burns. I bet you it's still in his computer. All the lyrics were about basketball, so it was specifically basketball intended. It was quite funny. I got a massive compliment one time when I was standing outside a real stylish, kind of free jazz noise bar in Dalston in England called Cafe Otto, and I was playing it for my best friend John MacArthur. We were hanging on the sidewalk in between noisy free jazz bands playing inside, and I said, "You got to hear the only song I've ever made in my life." It's on my phone here, and there was 3 or 4 women who were standing not far away, and they were like, "What are you listening to? What are you listening to?" And I was obviously quite embarrassed and quite self-conscious. I said, "We're just listening to a song that I wrote kind of jokingly, and I was playing it for my friend." And she said, "Oh, I thought you were listening to my favorite song of all time, a song called Nag, Nag, Nag by Cabaret Voltaire." Obviously, she was hard of hearing, but I was deeply complimented by that. So I figured, even though that's the only stranger that ever appreciated the song, I felt like I'd completed my task of being a songwriter. I can still see her face when I said it was me. And I certainly didn't want to have her listen to it at a louder volume.
I bet there's no way that you could miss, based on your great taste.
I bet you're wrong.
Well, you just wrote a bad song to prove me wrong. But look, you've been surrounded by all the.
I'm not going to write any songs. I've been in a lot of bands, like little tiny bands. I was in a band in the last few years. Not little tiny. They're kind of big by Iowa's punk rock standards, and I just played percussion and stuff, but I kind of participated in the songwriting process there. And then, of course, I've made my contributions to early Silver Jews and sporadically to Pavement songs. More sort of in the terms of lyrics than any other content. But lyrically, I can write lyrics.
I wanted an Equestrian concept album, nothing less, man.
That's a worse concept than your Elves album.
There's no such thing as a bad concept for a concept album.
I guess you're correct.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Tarkus is about a steel-plated armadillo monster. If that could be...
That's Gary Young's favorite band, so it must appeal to people that are completely out of their minds.
That's right.